Well, good afternoon. 4:25 here in Minnesota. It's the first day I've been able to have my shop door open. I guess since probably November. There's Allie. This place looks like a bomb went off in it because it's so. I've been tied up in this thing since February 1st. So we're down now. I've got one more cutting session to go. That's what remains right there, and that's like a day and a half of work right there. Somewhere in that. That's quite a few pieces right at the end. It doesn't look like that many, but when you have to mark out 5 each, then that's probably 100, more than 100 pieces. I'd say that's probably 130 pieces right there, easily. Anyway, here's what I've marked off here, right here, and these are. I just got through cutting these on the ring saw, and they are all of these that have the blue dot on them to there. So this section over here is all that remains. And the pieces with the red dots on them are pieces that are going to be this magenta here. Now bear in mind this light here is real intense, so we're not getting the colors to look the way they actually look. And as I'm looking through this camera, they look different in real light, or at least in my eyes, than they look through this camera. I'm seeing a little more green tint on some of these, which is what I was actually looking for. The camera's not picking that up, I don't think. Yeah, it does. There's some green right there. I mixed the blue and the green because I was near some foliage. And I put a picture yesterday, I think it was, of these 3 sections here in this spot. Now it's going to look considerably different tomorrow because we'll have the glass in, I think, right over to about right there. And this will be this little area right here. The only thing that will remain. And so here's all the pattern pieces, and I cut those. I'm repeating myself all the time because different people come along to look at this video. There are some that are actually do this as a hobby. I don't think there's any professionals looking at me. I'd be looking at them. But anyway, there's some hobbyists that fool around with this stuff. So a lot of this talk that I do here on my Facebook page is geared toward people that are trying to do this or trying to learn how to do it. And so I can give them some tips or something, or explain to them how I went about getting this far. And I cut these out. I think, I think I cut them out this morning. I've actually done pretty good today. I cut this section out right here, which it are these pieces. And for reference, there's a Papermate pin. So you can see some of these are pretty small. The smallest down in here. These are hard to work with. And I think I just, look at this thing here. Now, if you're a glass cutter, using a glass cutter, you're not going to cut that out, because you're going to making this deep cut here or this deep cut here, and then trying to retain this little piece of glass here with a glass cutter is just, it's not impossible, certainly, but very difficult. And if you got to have 5 of them, you're not going to fool around with that. And here's a little indentation right here. So then here's an odd shape one here. I can cut that one with a glass cutter. This one here, most likely. Anyway, there's a lot of these. Here's this deep curve right here. If you're trying to get that out of a piece that you've done with a glass cutter, you're most likely going to lose this little section right here. Another little scallop right there. So the easiest thing to do here, more time consuming for certain, as I've said many times, is to bring yourself over to the ring saw. And I just shut this thing down. Here's a whole pile. I'm going to show you how I stay organized. And I cleaned this thing up before this started, and I'm showing for a reason. Look at that water. That water is full of ground up glass, and then it just works those bearings up one side and down another. And I think in the set of glass before this set, this bearing locked up, shut everything down. And but I have all kinds of spare parts. And in fact, I've got one more round with the ring saw right there. And I'll go ahead and put a new ring in. and new bearings and start all over because I don't want any grief this close to the end of this thing. This has been going on since February 1st, and I did take, I believe it was last Wednesday is the only day that I did not work on this thing. I've worked on it all the way through. And I don't know, for the average person to look at it, it looks like a lot of glass to me when you stretch it out over all 5 of them. And I can assure you it was a lot of glass. And I'm just happy to be able to be this age, I'm 74, to be able to stand here and do this stuff for 7 weeks. I think that's where I'm at. Yeah, 7 weeks. That's a long haul. Some days, most days, are around 7 or 8 hours. But if you're going to do this and do it right and do it so that this lamp goes together and looks really good, then you're just going to have to bear down and pay attention to every single piece. And that's one of the things I was going to talk about here. I talked a little bit about it on the last video, but I've looked at these pieces, for instance, and in fact, that little star mark there indicates that I want that to be background glass, not blue. And here they are over here. And so I've cut all these pieces out on the ring saw, and the way that works is, let me grab here you go. I set these pieces up. Now, I've got 3 different things going on right here. I've got the darkest color that I'm working with at the bottom, and then a little lighter, and then a little lighter, and this one has a little bit of green tint in it. Now, where I worked off on this section of this glass was lighter than where we've already gone down here and gotten darker. Now, as I stand here and look at this thing, there's quite a bit of difference between these two. But through this camera, sitting on top of this LED light box, you're not really seeing a lot of difference, I don't think. Maybe a little. This looks much darker through the camera than this one does. So anyway, that's the 3 pieces that I'm moving around in. And I think I can probably show this. Those pieces, except for the one with the green in it, came out of these sheets. Whoop, let's go up this way. So look at there. Now you can get right down into some really light stuff, and then you head on down and you get on down into some deep, darker backup light. So you get on this sheet and you just whack out an area of the sheet across here. This one here I took out of the bottom there. And you're looking for certain things. And in the case of what I'm looking for actually 3 or 4, I'll go on to this second, 3 or 4 different shades of blue on till it gets to near purple. And then I add a little bit of this in if I want to get even lighter with that little bit of that green tint, because there's all kinds of foliage going on in a vine like this all around. And that's why, let's go back up and look at this. Here's a piece of background 198, and that's right there. So there's some background right there, and here's background right here. And so when the flowers cascade down, there'll be a section right here where you'll see some light through there, like in nature. When the flower petals are falling, you know, there's areas that you can see through that are not covered by flowers. That's one of them there. And I think, did I do this one? Yeah, I did that one also. So I've got my flowers cascading here and my flowers cascading down this side with the background in those 2 spots right there. And as I've said before, I'll repeat myself numerous times here because different people get different things out of these videos. And in fact, some fellow, I can't remember who his name was, anyway, wanted me to set up my camera. I've got another camera holder right there. Set up my camera here and show this ring saw in operation. Well, by the time I get the camera sitting down in there and all the racket, and this thing's throwing water in my face, that didn't really get practical. And the ring saw, basically, you've got the glass marked out. Here, let's go over here. I'm looking for something in particular to... There. Ouch. Good night. I'm sticking myself. All right. Let's take this piece of glass right here. If I I'll get it on where we can see it. If I set it on this glass, I've said this before, but we'll do it again. And I go around it with this felt tip. Okay, now that black line has gone around that pattern piece. And I've decided that I want this lighter color here off this green sheet, green and blue sheet. So we don't want that to dry out. Let's put that there. Then, we've talked about this before, then I come around with this diamond scribe, and there's a diamond right in the tip of that thing. Boy, they don't give these away. Anyway, and I scribe just inside of that black line. That means I'll be right back to the size of this pattern. And then that, let's find that piece for as a matter of fact. This can get harder than it looks. There it is right there. Okay. So let's get over here where we can see it a little bit better. There. So now you can see that line around that piece. Now, the line's not showing up here as good as it normally does, but that it's good enough for me now. And I'm trying to take that ring saw and cut as close as I can to that black, this marked out line right here. Coming over here now, and you get this grinder going, and let's see if I get some water here. Let's get some water, and we'll just, I can show him part of this stuff. Whoop, we'll get it where you can see it. See, now the idea, let me shut that off. The idea is to grind that piece of glass back to that dark line. And this is the part that takes the time. I think, let's see, 4:30, and I just finished. Took me about, I don't want to lose that piece. Put it right back over here, and I'll show you how I get it from here over to there. Anyway, I think it took me about an hour and 45 minutes to cut these out of all these. And I had them all marked up first. I'll put that over there. I don't want to lose that. I had these all marked up first on these pieces of glass. Then I came over here, set everything up. The saw had clean water, everything. And I think these wheels only had about an hour on them. And I thought I was going to have some issues before I got done because this water is so abrasive, and I've changed the water every time I get ready to use it. Anyway, we made it. The saw didn't break down on me. And this is actually a good saw. These are great saws, that Taurus 3. They don't pay me anything to say this, but these are great saws. So anyway, we made it through there. Now I'm ready to rebuild it, and I'll put a new, boy, you can't even hardly feel the diamonds on that blade. Man, that blade is smooth. So what's happened there is I've worn all the diamonds off that blade. I think I told somebody last time, I think $30-something for a blade. You know, that doesn't make any, when you're cutting on a lamp that's worth thousands of dollars, you're not sweating a $30 blade. Anyway, so how do I get, now these are a little bit wet, doesn't make any difference because I'm going to grind them tomorrow. So that's the way this works. I mark them all out half a day, and then I go on and cut them all out, and then get them transferred over to here. And I've used up pretty much a whole day in that process. And then let's see, this many pieces of glass right here to grind, going to take me about 4.5 hours, 4.5 hours. This gets real tedious, and well, you know, it is what it is. You gotta grind. Now this thing right here, that's going to take some time. And the reason for that is all these radiuses, these real narrow spots, won't fit that hub. So you can, I explained this in the last video, but I'm going to do it again. I can grind this side off there, and here, and here, and there. Now I can't grind that, and I certainly can't grind that one. I can grind that little flat spot right there, and I can grind this. But so there's what, 1, 2, 3. There's 3 sections of that you can't grind on there. So you got to get from there over to here. Let me pull this out of there so you can see that. Okay, now you get down into nitty gritty here. So now you can grind on this one. Another little tiny head. Let's fire that thing up. There you go. I don't have any water on that, so I don't want to really go at it, but there's how you do that. So you got to do that 5 times. And then you come over here on another one and another one, and then you get down to this stuff. And now look at this. I don't know whether you can see the, okay, now I can see it. I don't know whether you can see it. I think you can. There's a black line on that thing. And you've got to get up in here. Okay, now I ground that to the black line right across the top there. But you got to go around and around here. And man, I'm here to tell you that about 4 hours of this, and your fingers are feeling, where'd that come from? Right there. Your fingers are feeling the pain. However, I don't know. My hands yesterday my fingers are really tired. And, but I bounced back real quick. I don't know how, I wish I could transfer whatever it is that keeps me going here. 7 weeks of standing on your feet doing this to everybody that's up my age, because I'll tell you, you get to be this age, most people, are sitting in a chair. Anyway, I don't know what it is, but I think it's just the fact that you really, really love what you're doing. And as far as I am into this thing, 7 weeks into this, I just feel like I'm on about the second day. Now, I don't know exactly how that's working, but it's good. And I do this on most all these projects. I usually get some pretty intricate glasswork to do, not anything like this, but most all of them, the closer it gets toward the end, the more horsepower I have. And but we're not near the end here yet, but we're certainly near the end of the cutting. So anyway, how do we move from where we are to where we're going? Okay, so what I do is I look at the drawing again, and there's 201. And I like to set these pieces up at the area in which I'm going to install them onto here. And I don't like to do random, because if you just pick any piece out, then you start running over yourself over here, knocking things around. So let's just take 201, and we'll find 201. There's 201. Okay, and then I take 201 over to here, and I start looking for a piece that looks like 201. Usually I take the larger pieces to start with. And is that 201? No, that's not 201. There's 201 right there. Okay, so I take all 5 of these. I'm doing this all one-handed because of this phone. Okay, and I put all 5 of them right there. Make sure there are 5. All right, is that 201? So let's get I know it is, but we'll show you how you do it. Okay, oh, I'm going to show you something. Look at this. That black line, or that dark etched out line, is sitting right exactly on that piece of pattern paper. Now, that's no walk in the park pattern right there either, because it's not going to fit that. Let me get it where you can see it. It's not going to fit that hub, see? So you can grind all the way around there and all the way around this thing, but you're going to have to go over here and grind out that bottom. So what that boils down to is you get 10 shots on the grinder, because you're 5 pieces on the large grinder, and then the 5 pieces back over to the small grinder. So that takes time. So that's why it's going to be, 4.5 or 5 hours to get all these ground. And I'll grind every single one of those right back exactly to that dark scribed line. And the reason for that is because and I said this before one time, theoretically, if every single piece that I cut fit this pattern exactly, then I would have this uniform line, which is going to be the solder line. And those that don't understand what that's all about, just stay with me here through this lamp, and I'll show you how these things are built from start to finish. But anyway, this line will be a uniform solder line all over this piece. If you're sloppy in cutting, then if there's voids or holes, in other words, if this leaf came down a little short of that line, well, okay, no problem. Here this piece is, but that's going to get filled with solder. And so that's unsightly in respect to the entire lamp, because you want glass in that spot, not solder. So the idea here is, if you close cut or cut every single piece of this thing exactly to the pattern, and that's virtually humanly impossible, but I'm awful close. And but if you cut every single piece close to the pattern, then they'll fit well, And the lamp will look like that it's had somebody that was skilled in building it. And, you know, I like to think I've got some skills, but, you know, the better I cut, the better the lamp is going to look, and consequently, the easier it is going to be to assemble it. And the assembly on this thing is going to be long and laborious. However, I've said this on yesterday's post or whatever I put on Facebook, that the foiling of this thing, and we'll, for those that don't know what that is, I'll explain that. But for the foiling of this thing, it's going to be a vacation compared to all this glass cutting. And now, I want to show you something else. I've mentioned this before, but see the light, the flowers on the bottom of this thing down here look much darker than the flowers here. And that's just the difference in the light bulb. That's all that is. So the person that owns this lamp will change the light bulbs. There are 4 light bulbs in this, on the base of this lamp, and they'll change that light bulb till they get the effect that they're looking for in the particular place that this lamp is going to sit. And this gentleman is a very accomplished woodworker, and he's built a special table for this thing. So this should be something right out of a magazine when I get this thing done, particularly sitting on this real fine table. So anyway, let's do one more. All right, so there's 191. So we take 191, and that's going to be easy because that's the one we were doing a while ago. Oh, no. No, here it is, 191. I was nearly wrong. Whoa. One-handed is not as good as two. All right, there it is. So that's the way this works. And I told you a lie there. 191's out of whack. I would actually, we'll put 191 here. And I'll show you something. Okay, so I'm going to install 201 first, and then I would probably go to 200 and 202. So that's what I would do next. I would take 200 if I could find that somewhere in here. I think that's 280. 200's a little one. You probably see it, and I can't see it. Where did it go? How about 202? I'll just take 202. There's 205. Oh, there's 202. There's 200 right there. Okay, so there's 202, so that's going to be one of the ones I'm going to go to next, and then 200 is right there. Man, look at the size of that. These are crazy. All right, so we'll move 191 down. So anyway, there's 200 and 202 right there. So I would find those pieces. 200 is going to be this one right here. So there's 200, and we come over here like this. Okay, so that's how this works. So anyway, I get these all lined up. One at a time, I find each one, take them from this pile, and bring them over to here. And there'll be a line of them here, and then another line here. I think they're 20-something pieces here, about 20-something. Okay, when I get them all laid out, then I start at the top one up here, 201. I grind over here 201, and then I have my cloth sitting here, and I'd come off the grinder or the small grinder, and the 5 pieces set here. Then I take another cloth, which I don't seem to have. Here it is. I'm just, oh, look out. I'm telling some people are actually going to build similar lamps. Then I dry them off, and then I take all 5 of them and set them up on here. And that one would, of course, would go right there. And then I come over and put another one right there, and then another one right there, and right there. Okay, that'd be the 5 of them down. Then you go back over here to 202. Come over and take 202, grind it out, take it over here, dry it, go 202, 202. That way you don't get lost, because you've seen me enough on here already. It's so easy to get lost here. And if you don't keep track of this stuff, and you can't figure out where a piece went, or you look down here and there's 4 instead of 5. So you really got to pay attention to what you're doing every step of the way here, or you can get lost on this thing. And I'll tell you a real disaster. I have a cat in a little room behind me here. I don't let the cat out here. If that cat jumped up on this table, which that cat is prone to do. Not lately, because I won't let him out. But anyway, and he started walking through this mess right here. Can you, I don't even know. I'm not sure I could get this thing put back together. So I'm petrified of anything knocking this table. So there's nobody here but me, basically. Because if that happened, I would have a disaster that would, well, I guess I would get out of it at some point. But there's so many pieces here. Like that piece right there looks an awful lot like that piece. I mean, man. And they're not numbered here. I mean, you know, nor are they numbered there. It wouldn't matter if they were numbered there. If they're not numbered on top, and I'm not going to sit here and write numbers on 2,000 of these things. That'd be nuts for sure. But all you have to do is just keep track of it. But there's so many pieces that are very similar in size. You can even see that right here. Here's 280. It's different than 200, but here's 287. Look at this. So you get this insanity. Hey, check 194. Look at 285. Now there's 5 pieces right there. Now they look different here, but when you start trying to dig them out of here, that's why everything here goes real slow, because I don't want to mix the pieces up. And I have caught myself 2 or 3 different times on here having the wrong piece. But the last, let me get these way out of here. The last step is that these pieces, after they're ground, have got to fit the cartoon on this mold over here. Boy, I'm anxious to get on this mold. But anyway, so all those pieces will fit there. This is the pattern here, and that pattern's the same over there. So I'll be able to come over here if I've got a piece turned upside down. In other words, this is going to have a right and a left, or a front and a back. So if you turn this piece over right here, it's not going to fit in that spot. So that tells me, that particular piece, that the bottom is a flat spot on it. There's another little flat spot across the top. It'll fit right there. When I start setting these pieces on here, they have a relationship with the pieces next to them. So everything needs to fit right. So we're not but I think early next week away from starting this up. And that's very interesting. And boy, am I looking forward to that. So anyway, we'll talk about how that evolves when I get all of these cut. And I'm so close to cutting. I'm thinking it's Monday. I'm thinking now, maybe Thursday-ish, or maybe even Friday, I'll have all these done. It'll take me 5 hours tomorrow, and then I'll start marking out another set tomorrow afternoon. Cut that Wednesday, grind them. I don't know. I'm probably Saturday getting all of this done, but at least I can see the end of this cutting. And you know, all these stained glass windows, sometimes they look pretty good toward the end, and then most of the times I'm not particularly happy with decisions that I've made. This time I'm reasonably happy with what I've done right now. And once this thing starts to go together, and in particular when it starts getting soldered and then comes off the mold when all the pieces are on there, I think this is going to be a really, really beautiful lamp. I'm really excited about it. So anyway, that's all I have. And to the guy that wanted me to video this thing, man, I don't know. I don't think that's a good deal there. I mean, it can't be that difficult. I swear I could train a chimpanzee how to do this. I don't think that there's not a lot of skill in fabricating these pieces, because you're just going around here with this ring saw. And if I had to do all of this with a glass cutter, now, and I've got some skill with a glass cutter. I don't have any ego in respect to this stuff, and I don't brag about anything, but I can cut glass with a glass cutter actually pretty well. But I think if you've done something for 45, 50 years, you should be able to do it by now. Here, glass cutter is just impractical on this thing, for sure. If you want to get it done and make these pieces fit perfectly, then there's another way you're going to have to go. Anyway, And this is not the only hard, by the way, hard lamp that people do. If you want to see a hard lamp, well, there are numerous Tiffany reproduction lamps that are hard. The lotus leaf, oh, geez, that thing. And I tell you another one, Scott Riggs does a tremendous job with the lotus flower lamp. Oh, another tough lamp to build. Got tiny pieces all from the wider ones at the bottom going all the way to the top. Man, you got to really have a lot of patience to go after a lamp like that. But I think after the wisteria, this should be your ticket punched to about anything you want to do. If you could knock this thing out and make this look good, then there's just not anything in respect to difficult pieces of glasswork that you can at least give a shot to. Anyway, I'm all done. Oh, man, look here, boy. It's going to be so much fun putting this thing together. I can't wait. Man, that's all I think about. I go to bed at night thinking about this thing, wake up in the morning thinking about it. Yeah. All right. Anyway, I don't think I have anything else, and we'll grind these out tomorrow and keep rocking. Thank you again for your attention, and we'll put this thing together. The skill, I say we haven't used a lot of skill here yet, but the skill will come when I start trying to fit these pieces to that mold and getting the foil on there, and that's not that big a deal. But when you get into the soldering now there's another whole ball game. You're going to have some soldering skills to make this thing look good, and I can solder fairly well, so we should be okay. Anyway, thank you again. Let me know if you have any questions. I appreciate it. Bye now.